House Committee Intelligence Hearing on UFOs. This was taken about a year ago when the Nimitz incident became very popular. This is, I'm just going to do a quick clip here of this. It's like 3 or 4 hours long, but I'm just going to do a quick clip. This is about some of the lawmakers grilling these guys on what they know about UFOs, UAPs, in this unclassified hearing before Congress. So without further ado, I'll go ahead and show some of my favorite parts here. Let's get into it.
Observations, everything that we can't explain, quote unquote, is in a bucket called data.
Right, a narrative report from the early 2000s, if it just had a little bit of information on it, would be in our database and it would be unresolved.
I would add to that it's insufficient data. I mean, that's one of the challenges we have. Insufficient data either on the event itself, the object itself, or insufficient data or plug-in with some other organization or agency that may have had something in that space at that time. So it's a data issue that we're facing in many of these instances, Congressman.
Understood. Thank you very much. Yield back.
Gentleman yields back. Mr. Gallagher.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you for allowing me to join this hearing. I really appreciate the witness's testimony. Mr. Moultrie, as the chairman mentioned, DoD had an initiative to study UFOs in the 1960s called Project Blue Book. It's also been well reported in our briefing and in other places that we have more recent projects, specifically ATIP. Could you describe any other initiatives that the DoD or DoD contractors have managed after Project Blue Book ended and prior to ATIP beginning? Did anything also predate Project Blue Book?
So I can't speak to what may have predated Project Blue Book.
Guys, if you like this kind of content and want to see more, please consider subscribing. I really appreciate everybody that's been subscribing in this past month, past week, past day. I see each and one of you, and I really appreciate that. So thank you guys so much for subscribing, and let's get back into the show.
I mean, of course, there's Roswell and all these other things that people have talked about over the years.
Actually, one of the main that's a good question, by the way. And that gentleman, the congressman, is from Wisconsin, the Green Bay area. So basically, the main UFO topic started actually at the Battle of LA. You can look this up in the newspapers, very well known. There was actually a large ship, mothership if you will, sighted by about 500,000 people outside of Los Angeles, and maybe like Santa Barbara area. I believe this was the late 30s, and Roswell was in 47. So this is happening. This has been happening for a long time. We actually, our Navy ships, it was late 30s or early 40s. Our Navy ships and our Coast Guard actually launched all of their ammunition towards this craft, and it was just exploding on the bottom of this craft and not even touching anything. Many people were outside looking at this, and William Tompkins has a great testimony about this because he was actually there watching that, and I'm going to post videos about his interviews here soon. And so that's kind of where all of this started. Everybody thinks it's Roswell. Well, you know, the actual crafts never crashed in Roswell, just so you guys know. That's kind of false information. There was, as far as I'm concerned, there was no real crash in Roswell, New Mexico. There was one crash there was actually two crashes, okay, simultaneously. We didn't recover one until 1949 when the actual Roswell event was in 47. The first craft that we collected is near Corona, New Mexico, okay, and then the other one was in like I think it was out west further, but still in New Mexico, and it was not recovered for 2 years because we didn't find it. It's out kind of in the middle of nowhere, and so we did recover some beings. I think we recovered 4 beings, and one of them was alive. We call him EBA-1, which is extraterrestrial biological entity, EBE-1. They are from a race known as the Ebens. I guess they're called the Ebens, or we called them that. They're like a typical gray, 3 to 4 feet tall, and they gave us information about where they come from, what kind of propulsion systems they use, yada yada. We collected their craft, took the craft to Wright-Patterson Air Force Base here in Ohio, did some studies on it, and began the reverse engineering process. Now, how it was crashed, we cannot say for sure, whether that be lightning or scalar weapons that uh, are we have been using to knock these to knock their electromagnetic fields around their craft, disable them to be able to retrieve them and take their technology. Um, this leads us into a project that is highly classified, known as Project Serpo or Operation Serpo. And so basically, 12 Army officials. It's kind of some skepticism whether or not it was actually 12 or not, or less than that. So I would say around 6 to 12 Army officials, operatives, went to their planet of the Ebens, the home planet. Um, and they stayed with them for a number of years. And so they were able to, they took all their information and, the food and things like that, and had to eat and live with the Ebens. And there was only, as far as I know, there was maybe like 500,000 to a million of them on the planet. It was very hot because where they were, there was actually two suns. And like I said, this project is highly classified. We we were able to get a lot of information out of this, and I believe one of them stayed on that planet. And so, and I think and a few of them perished on that planet. But they were peaceful. It was overall peaceful. I think they just died from natural causes or what have you, or the radiation from the two suns, which is another thing. Um, so we were able to collect great deal of information towards that situation. And this, like I said, this is highly classified. It's very hard to find real, true information on this. This you can look it up on DuckDuckGo or what have you. Project Serpo. There's many whisperings about it, and Richard Doty from the Air Force Office of Special Intelligence has a good testimony on this as well. So that's just a little bit about the Roswell crash. It's kind of got a little bit of misinformation as far as like what happened, and some claim that they weren't even beings at the Roswell crash, that they were animatronic in nature, which, as far as I know, is false. So there's just a lot of misinformation as far as the crash. And it's funny, like when the Roswell thing actually did happen, they said it was like swamp gas or a weather balloon or something of that nature. And then next thing you know, the CIA was invented a couple months later, and all the three-letter agencies, and it just trickles down from there. So that's kind of the main climactic point of when the UFO topic started. And so, but I just wanted to refer back to the Battle of LA, which is very popular in its own right, but it doesn't get the recognition it deserves because it was witnessed by far, far more people than the Roswell crash and such. So let's get back into this.
I'm familiar with Blue Book. I'm familiar with ATIP. I haven't seen other documented studies that have been done by DoD in that regard.
So you're not aware of anything in between Project Blue Book and ATIP?
I'm not aware of anything that's official that was done in between those two. Okay. Hasn't been brought to my attention.
Okay. Additionally, are you aware of any other DoD or DoD contract programs focused on UAPs from a technological engineering perspective? And by that I mean, are you aware of any technology initiatives focused on this topic other than initiatives focused on the individual case investigations?
I'm not aware of any contractual programs that are focused on anything related to this other than what we are doing in the Navy Task Force and what we are about to launch in terms of our effort.
Same question for you, Mr. Bray.
Same answer, not aware of anything outside what we are doing in the UAP Task Force.
So just to confirm, you're not aware of any technology or engineering resources that have been focused on these efforts besides what we've mentioned today?
Once again, I'll say no contractual or programmatic efforts that are involved. The reason why I qualify it that way, let me qualify it that way. I can't speak to what people may be looking at in the department. Somebody says, I'm looking at something that may be unidentified, and I can't speak to that. I speak to official programs that we have on the record.
It's also been reported that there have been UAP observed and interacting with and flying over sensitive military facilities, particularly, and not just ranges, but some facilities housing our strategic nuclear forces. One such incident allegedly occurred at Malmstrom Air Force Base, in which 10 of our nuclear ICBMs were rendered inoperable. At the same time, a glowing red orb was observed overhead. I'm not commenting on the accuracy of this. I'm simply asking you whether you're aware of it and whether you have any comment on the accuracy of that report.
Let me pass that to Mr. Bray, if you've been looking at UAPs over the last 3 years.
That data is not within the holdings of the UAP task force.
Of course not. Of course not. This is like when the stuff gets in the weeds for all this stuff. This is actually a well-known incident, and many whistleblowers have come out talking about it that are very credible. Richard Doty talks about this, and a number of other officials. And Richard Doty was actually tasked with investigating this type of situation because he works for the Air Force Offices of Special Investigation, worked for them. And so basically, a UFO comes, they're very interested in our nuclear devices. Now, that's because nuclear is like a no-no in the galaxy as far as I know. The radiation that comes from that is damaging to all biological life, and it's just we are using that to potentially strike and cause havoc throughout our planet. So they're very interested in what we know and what we can do with nuclear materials. This isn't the only incident that the UFO has interacted with nuclear facilities. There's a base up in Maryland, I believe, or northern East Coast, and so there was an underground nuclear missile, and overnight the missile was completely dismantled, and we actually retrieved fingerprints from. This is the first time our government was able to obtain extraterrestrial fingerprints. They knew that it wasn't an actual person being able to break into this because they wouldn't be able to get through the security. Because now keep in mind that these security systems on these nuclear facilities are among the highest in the planet. This is triple backed. I mean, basically firewall, and the whole 9 yards of security. This is extremely high level security, and these extraterrestrials are able to just mold through this extremely easy because they're older than us, and you know it's all technology anyway. So kind of if you dismantle, it's much like us working with like a Model T, but they have like a Lamborghini, you know, kind of the same, but they have like a spaceship that's, you know, that's just kind of like a comparison of their technological range between our Model T and their Lamborghini. So that just kind of gives you an idea about how advanced some of these are. Now that doesn't mean all of them are, but many of them are that advanced, and they do hold a threat to national security. This is why the government has been secretly investigating these UFOs for many, many years. This goes back to, like I said, the Battle of LA. Naval Intelligence has a great deal of information on this. This gentleman is not privy to any of that for some reason. I don't know what these guys are doing here, but they really aren't, as far as I know, they're not in the know as far as this topic is concerned. And so that things like that do hold a snag in the ability to get this information disclosed and to the regular public's view, because you guys have been paying for this with your taxpayer money. That's why I made this channel, because this whole topic really upsets me, because they don't even consider these things to exist, or if they do consider it to exist, it has to be unclassified information. Well, there is information out there that's classified that shouldn't be classified because the public is paying for it. And that is the problem that I have with this. And people make their decisions in their life based on what they believe in without having the recognition that this potentially exists, which it does exist. I'm sorry to break that to you. So, yeah, I could get into that all day, but let's get back into this.
Okay, but are you aware of the report, or that the data exists somewhere?
I have heard stories. I have not seen the official data on that.
So you've just seen informal stories, no official assessment that you've done or exists within DoD that you're aware of regarding the Malmstrom incident?
All I can speak to is, what's within my cognizance, the UAP task force, and we have not looked at that incident.
Well, I would say, it's a pretty high-profile incident.
Yeah.
I don't claim to be an expert on this, but that's out there in the ether. You're the guys investigating it. I mean, who else is doing it?
If something was officially brought to our attention, we would look at it. There are many things that are out there in the ether that aren't officially brought to our attention.
So how would it have to be officially brought to your attention? I'm bringing it to your attention.
Sure, so,
this is pretty official.
Sure. So we'll go back and take a look at it, but generally there is some
wow.
authoritative figure that says there is an incident that occurred. We'd like you to look at this. But in terms of just tracking what may be in the media that says that something occurred at this time, at this place, there are probably a lot of leads that we would have to follow up on. I don't think we are resourced to do that right now.
Well, I don't claim to be an authoritative figure, but for what it's worth, I would like you to look into it. And
Sure.
if for no other reason, you could dismiss it and say this is not worth wasting resources on.
Will do.
And then finally, are you aware of a document that appeared around 2019, sometimes called the Admiral Wilson Memo or EW Notes Memo?
I am not.
You're not.
Are you tracking?
I'm not personally aware of that.
Okay. This is a document in which, again, I'm not commenting on the veracity. I was hoping you would help me with that, in which a former head of DIA claims to have had a conversation with the Dr. Eric Wilson and claims to have sort of been made aware of certain contractors or DoD programs that he tried to get fuller access to and was denied access to. So you're not aware of that?
I'm not aware, Congressman.
In my 10 seconds remaining, then, I guess I just would ask, Mr. Chairman, unanimous consent to enter that memo into the record.
Without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Appreciate it.
Mr. Krishnamurthy.
Okay, I'll go ahead and include the main video. This is done by WorldCam. I'll go ahead and put the link down in the description if you guys want to watch all of this. This is very interesting stuff, but it seems to me like these congressmen, which aren't truly in the know, they know more than what these gentlemen here are doing. But this was a year ago, so things might be different now, but I just wanted to show this kind of like the level. This is actually in Congress. These are Congress people here talking. So it just goes to show how things have moved. They're not so hush-hush like they were back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s. This topic hasn't been touched officially for, the better part of half a century. So I think it's great strides in the UFO, UAP topic and giving Americans the right to understand what they've been, where their place is in the universe, and really what's going on here. There's something going on here, whether you believe that or not, and whether all of the information regarding UFOs is not true, which it's not true. A lot of it isn't true, to be honest with you. There's a lot of misinformation, and the reason for that is because there's no standardized information. So you can make up anything you want and talk about anything, but if there's no standardized information practice, then how can you make information, and it would have to deviate from the original information to be considered false, but both informations can be considered false when there's no standardized information practice. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this video. I'll be posting more videos soon, every single day actually, so thank you so much for subscribing, and I will see you guys in the next one. Peace out.